Yeah, I mean, I love the changes that they've made for the show. You know, I came to boat many years in a row in the 80s up to the beginning of the 90s, and it was a huge event. But it was a little bit discouraging over time because it just became a sales place for windsurfing. So the industry was on one point showing the new stuff, and just 50 meters away was a dealer selling last year's stuff at closeout prices. So really good for the public, but it wasn't really stimulating the sport. There was no real action going on. And I think what they've done, making this village, making a really kind of a cool atmosphere for the industry and the dealers together, and then bringing in the cable pool, 60-meter pool with some action going on, showing the freestyle windsurfing tricks, foiling, wakeboarding, and then with the city wave, bringing some real surfing action into it as well. Kind of, I think, is what the show needed, at least from the fun sport perspective. You know, obviously the sailing boats and the yachts, it's incredible what they have, and that's perfect. But for the younger audience, they needed this kind of, I don't know, a little more action going on, you know? And so it brought me back. I haven't been here in, I think, 15 years, and it's cool to be back. I feel like there's some energy here that it needed, and it's great. Really well. I mean, Zane's been around for a number of years already. He's more a pro SUP guy now than a windsurfer, but he still windsurfs, still loves it like his dad. Matt is still windsurfing. You know, I've got my young team riders here, Casper Steinfath and Bernd Rodinger from Maui, wave rider. So they're both doing like SUP demonstrations and stuff, along with guys from other brands. So it's good that there's some of the young, fresh blood. You know, some of the European freestyle windsurfing guys that are doing the exhibition here on the cable are doing amazing things. No wind, you know, using the toe in to show the tricks that guys do windsurfing when there is wind. It's pretty cool. Well, I think for me, the foiling is actually the real important development in the last 25 years, because what we did is windsurfing started out as sailing for everybody, surfing for everybody, the most accessible way to the water. You know, it brought people to the ocean that had never been part of the ocean before. But the problem is the sport develops itself not to extinction, but into a much smaller box with the advancement of the equipment. The board's getting smaller, the sail's getting more extreme, the riding getting more extreme. And it made it so in the 70s you could go windsurfing on every lake in Germany. And slowly it became fewer and fewer spots with enough wind to really go. And it got to the point where, yeah, if you're really into it, you do it. But otherwise, there's just not enough wind. Kite surfing grew from that because you can kite surf in less wind with less gear. But now foiling is bringing light wind windsurfing back. And it's a big part of kite surfing as well now with the foils. It's a big part for surfing in the future. But for windsurfing, it brings accessible kind of light wind sailing back to the sport, which we really desperately needed. And that's the aspect that I'm really pushing at the moment, is the light wind windsurfing. Bringing all these guys that used to windsurf 20, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, that stopped because they got tired of waiting for wind, and now they can go back and have really good fun windsurfing with 10 or 12 knots of wind, which you can get everywhere. You know, it really varies. I'm involved with all three sports really heavily, and I've been spending a lot of time in the development of the foils in the last year and a half. So more foiling these days with all three sports than anything, but I still windsurf in the waves at Hokipa, and a little bit less kiting at the moment just because I had two really bad injuries back to back, both of them kiting, and being careless, maybe getting a little bit older and more fragile, I don't know. I think more just being careless and needing to focus more time on the water. You know, life gets complicated as you get older. Even when you're selfish like me and you want to be on the water every day, the business side takes time, and, you know, family and different responsibilities. And when you take that time away from your water time, you take the risk that maybe you're not quite 100% like you were before, and that's when injury happens, just from little tiny mistakes. Like both of my injuries were things that I've done 1,000 times, but I just landed a little bit wrong. And so it teaches you that you have to be on it all the time. So my focus for the future is more time on the water again, and a little bit less time working and doing other stuff. So